Thank you, Mark, BD Everett, and the Nautical Archaeology Society for so kindly inviting me to speak today at the annual conference. I'm very grateful and very honored. So I wanted to give you just a brief background of who I am before I start. So I used to volunteer and perform for many years at the archaeological site of Shakespeare's Rose Playhouse on Bankside in London. It's about a 2-minute walk away from the reconstructed Globe Theatre. And we used to interpret the site through performances. And the reason why I chose Henry VI, Part 1 is, first of all, it was performed at the Rose on the 3rd of March in 1592. But it also has this extraordinary line: glory is like a circle in the water, which never ceases to enlarge itself. And if you look at the middle image, you will see a circle in the water because the rose is buried under sand, concrete, and water. And we use the red rope lights to indicate the size and the shape of the rose to our visitors. And so it's a really beautiful way to demonstrate the relationship between text and archaeology and performing arts and archaeology. So Shakespeare, of course, knew what he was talking about even 400 years ago. So from there, my life in the movies. So after I left the Rose, I did a degree in archaeological practice at Birkbeck. And one of the field experiences I had was to help to clean and record an abandoned and discarded World War I submarine chaser, Motor Launch 286. And when I saw the vessel, I was like, wow, what is this sort of gaping sort of sea monster lurking out of the mud? And I was transfixed by her story and felt a great empathy for her discard and abandonment. So she served in the First World War up in the Orkneys. And then after the First World War, she became a houseboat. So she was stripped of her armament, was named Cordon Rouge, and then later she was renamed Eothen. And by the 1980s, she was abandoned at BJ Wood and Son Boatyard. And that's where she still sits today in Isleworthy in West London. And part of her story, of course, is the men who served on her. And her commander was Lieutenant Geoffrey Stephen Allfree, who was a war artist and tragically drowned on the 29th of September in 1918. So when I went to do my PhD at the University of Portsmouth, I proposed that I re-excavate the ship, but through storytelling, so merging my background in theatre and my background in archaeology. But I am not an academic, and I do not have an academic mind. And when I read things like researchers are part of what is researched by Saunders et al., it's like, what is he talking about? What is this research philosophy and this research philosophy onion that all the students look at? So whenever I get stuck as an academic, I go back to what I know, which is poetry and the arts. Aha, now I understand. So Alfred Lord Tennyson had to explain it to me. I am a part of all that I have met. And then it just changed my research. So I am a part of the archive. I am a part of the stories of the RNVR. I'm a part of my research participants' feelings and observations. I'm a part of the letters that were written by Lieutenant Geoffrey Stephen Allfree's daughter. I'm a part of the PhD experience, the late nights, not understanding Google Docs, and why am I doing this, and the endless coffee, and did I make a huge mistake? So I am a part of all that I have met. And then the magic of storytelling begins. So I created an archaeodrama, and this is basically an expansion on Johnny Saldana's concept of ethnodrama and ethnotheatre, whereby an ethnodrama, according to Saldana, is all your research data in scripted form, in dramatic form. And then ethnotheatre is the platform with which you showcase that dramatized research data. And I was thinking, well, I don't really have an ethnodrama. I have more of an archaeodrama. It's like, yes, the epiphany moment. So I just basically treated my data as archaeological finds and put them into typologies. I was sifting through all the lovely little finds through this research. And I created what I called Still Life Movie. That's the name of my archaeodrama. Movie, because motor launches were known as movies because of the animated way in which they moved in the water. And Still Life, because even though she's hulked in mud and she's still life, but she's also still life. And Bjornar Olsen talks about the fact that self-excavation of these objects, this ruination leads to this kind of new life within them where they're spilling forth their stories, their secrets, their memories. Now, performing history deals with the subject of guilt, and Freddie Rokem wrote a lovely book called Performing History, where he looks at a subject like the Holocaust, and he asks performers, can we really perform history that we don't know anything about? And so I just wanted to read to you a little bit about my thoughts about performing history and the subject of guilt. Engaging with the absence and presence of ML286 and her war dead allowed me to acknowledge my own absence and presence within our collective relationship. ML286's absence of materiality through her decay facilitates the ghostly presence of her past. The presence of ML286's ghosts are facilitated through the absence of their human bodies. Absence and presence are therefore not distant from each other, but are intrinsically linked, relying on each other for survival. Absence could not exist without presence, and presence could not exist without absence. Rebecca Schneider notes, upon any second look, disappearance is not antithetical to remains. Disappearance is that which marks all documents, all records, and all material remains. Indeed, remains become themselves through disappearance. ML286 and her dead heroes could therefore be perceived as being entangled in the life cycle of absent presences. Hence, this concept prompted me to reflect upon my own absence and presence within my practice research project. Reflecting on my own absences, I considered my absence from the First World War, my absence from ML286 as a warship and houseboat, and my absence from the life of service of the officers of the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve. I also reflected on my absence of knowing of what it is like to drown, to be shot, to be blown up, to commit suicide, or to expire from septicemia, the types of death I perform in still life movie. Utilizing self-reflection as a means to gain self-knowledge, I discovered that my relationship with ML286 was a constant presence of absences. Yet acknowledging this allowed me to become more closely and empathetically entangled with the motor launch and her war dead. As a result, I was inspired to include in the archaeodrama the words of Lieutenant Roland Layton in his poem, Violets from Plug Street Wood. So in the archaeodrama, it goes something like this. Violets from Plug Street Wood. Think what they have meant to me. Life and hope and love and you. And you did not see them grow where his mangled body lay, hiding horror from the day. Sweetest, it was better so. And so it was like the ghost of Lieutenant Roland Layton saying it was okay that I didn't experience all of those horrors of war, but it's my responsibility now to tell those stories in an empathetic way. So now we come on to ghosts. We come back to Shakespeare. All roads lead back to Shakespeare for me. So what is it about ghosts and Hamlet that so resonates with my project? It was the most difficult thing to defend in my viva with my examiners. So once again, I just wanted to read to you a little bit about what I wrote about ghosts. Freddie Rokem considered that historical figures were performed again when they reappeared on stage through the work of the actor and dramatic text. He additionally observed this understanding of the notion of performing history even contains a ghostly dimension, enabling the dead heroes of the past to reappear. According to Jacques Derrida, a traditional scholar does not believe in ghosts, nor in all that could be called the virtual space of spectrality. He therefore argued that there's never been a scholar who does not believe in the clear distinction between the real and the unreal, the actual and the inactual, the living and the non-living, and being and non-being. Yet he noted that it is Horatio the scholar whom Marcellus instructs to speak to the ghost of Hamlet's father and question it. Horatio, however, does not handle the situation well and defends the ghost, as Marcellus points out, by charging it to speak, which causes the ghost to remain silent and stalk away. Derrida argued that by charging the ghost to speak, Horatio was intending to inspect, stabilize, and arrest the spectre. According to this argument, why would Marcellus have called upon a scholar to speak with a ghost? Derrida concluded that Marcellus was perhaps envisioning a scholar of the future who would be capable of thinking the possibility of the spectre and the spectre as possibility. In my own scholarly experience, it was more productive to be open to the possibility of the spectre and to think of the spectre as possibility, as it allowed for greater creative insights into my practice research project. Furthermore, it allowed for greater empathetic insights into how to welcome and address myself to the strange and revenant spectres of ML286 and follow Hamlet's advice to Horatio, and therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. By utilizing a more broad-minded approach to my project, my academic mind was less dismissive and more accepting of the spectral world of the wreck, and therefore less inhibited to work more freely with my creative mind. As Hamlet reminds his good friend, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. With these thoughts in mind, I was able to empathetically ask the ghosts of ML286 what they wanted and patiently wait for their response. Unlike Horatio, I never charged the ghosts of the motor launch to speak or stay or to answer my questions immediately. I merely remained open to their comings and goings and trusted that they would reveal what they wanted, when they wanted, how they wanted. As Horatio experienced with the ghost of Hamlet's father, commanding a ghost to do anything is a futile exercise and a naive presumption on our part that we can control what is beyond our control. In the end, I believe the ghosts of ML286 wanted to be remembered and honored and their story to be told. And I felt they communicated this to me through inspiration, intuition, and through my imagination, or what Hamlet calls the mind's eye, the place where he first saw his deceased father. And so my research participants and I, we were also asking, what does ML286 want? Which is based on Chris Gosden's paper, What Do Objects Want? Which is based on W.J.T. Mitchell's paper, What Do Pictures Really Want? And we collectively and individually agreed that she wanted to be remembered, but she wanted to be let go as a veteran of 2 world wars, to be let go and rest in peace. So I created ex situ archaeotheatre. And you can see from the first image, I've recreated the transom of ML286, which is painted with the mud from the boatyard site, so I could bring the boatyard to the audience ex situ. Being ex situ also meant that it created new meanings to those words. So the transom folds. So when I was saying, when she sleeps, her soul I know goes a wander on the air, I had my hands out, wings, where I may never go, leaves her lying still and fair. And then I closed the transom, waiting empty, laid aside, and I leant it against a chair, like a dress upon a chair. And so it's that, again, that beautiful merging of storytelling and archaeology and replicas, which according to Sally M. Foster and Sean Jones have their own agency and authenticity. So I created archaeo props, an archaeo set, and my archaeo costume, which is really what I wear when I clean ML286. I just created a new top with the logo of my show. And I also recreated the poster. I don't know if everyone can see this at home, but here it is. And this is a concert that they put up in the wardroom of Arrogant 2 days before the raids on Zeebrugge and Ostend. And you can see that it's covered in mud. And this is when I performed my show for my supervisors in situ. And I was really cross that it was so covered in mud. And then I thought, hang on, if I can be a part of all that I've met, how can I deny that to my replica props? They too are part of what they have met and help to tell their story as well as mine and the RNVR officers. So here I am in situ in ML286 for my supervisors. At the University of Portsmouth, Mark Beattie Edwards is in the audience, so thank you, Mark, for that. And then performing at Southampton City Art Gallery with Lieutenant Allfree's paintings. What do pictures really want? They want to be a part of the story. And so I spoke Lieutenant Geoffrey Stephen Allfree's daughter's words to his paintings, when she wrote to the Museum of London, Museum of Modern Art, Oxford rather, and she said, above all, I don't want to leave the fate of my father's pictures to chance here, where they mean nothing to anyone and would end up in some junk dealer's shop and be damaged and quite possibly discarded. And to speak her words to her father's paintings is a moment I will never forget for the rest of my life. I was also performing with some new ghosts in St. Catherine's Churchyard at the Ventnor Fringe and at Portsmouth Historic Dockyard, or Portsmouth Historic Quarter, as it's now known as. And oops, come on, there we go. And recently at Portsmouth Book Fest and at the Portsmouth Fringe, and just a couple of days ago for Remembrance Day, when the proceeds went to the Veterans Outreach Support. I also worked with the University of Portsmouth Heritage Hub, and we took archaeodrama into a workshop setting. And here's some pictures of what the children drew. So the first is my very crude drawing. I was trying to explain to them in very basic terms about the principles of archaeology and stratigraphy and storytelling. And these beautiful paintings that the children are so enthusiastic about drawing, like the features of ML286, because I had some pictures of the vessel. And the little boy who drew the middle picture, he and a little girl put on a 30-second archaeodrama for me. And he played the part of Lieutenant Geoffrey Stephen Allfree, and the little girl played the part of a ship's cat. So it was brilliant. Wish she could have been there. I was also asked by the South Sea Green Community Garden Association to interpret one of their plots with my research. So I've got some daffodils, you can see in the third image there, because Lieutenant Eric P. Dawson talked about seeing daffodils when he was on shore leave and how much they meant to him. And so I came up with the idea of a poetry feeder purely by accident, because I was told that that's a bird feeder that the squirrels could get into. And I thought, okay, I can't have that as a bird feeder. How about as a poetry feeder? And so Lieutenant Eric P. Dawson's, I think we shall crave the laughter of the wind through trees, gold with the sun, when our strife is all finished after the carnage of war is done. How beautiful that his words are a part of the wind through the trees, gold with the sun. I mean, you can't make this up. This is just so beautiful. So that's a really special part of my garden. Then we took the poetry feeders out into the community and we took it into the cafe in the park. So if people are feeling like they might have a bit of an off day, they can go and lift up the lid of the poetry feeder and take a little scroll of poetry away from them. They're just filled with poems of nature. So it's, again, all this budding from ML286. So we also had the visit of the University of Portsmouth Doctoral College and the PGRs, and we were planting bulbs. So it was a nice way to get back into nature. And finally, this is about Keats, you know, shed no tear, oh, shed no tear, the flower will bloom another year. Weep no more, oh, weep no more. Young buds sleep in the root's white core. She is not asleep, she is living, breathing archaeodrama. And to quote my research participant, it is its own veteran. It's now been given the chance to not be a giver or taker of life, a dealer of life, but a facilitator, one that can contribute to the growth of life and the end of life without having to act. It, by its very presence, is involved in the process of life. And I think taking it away from that is denying it its final fitting conclusion. So, as Rupert Brooke, Sub-Lieutenant Rupert Brooke would say, one may not doubt that somehow good shall come of water and of mud. And as a final thank you Mark Beatty Edwards, because when I was in COVID and lockdown, he gave me the chance to talk about ML286, which led me to my PhD research at the University of Portsmouth. And, you know, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, as Mark Beatty Edwards was to me, because if you are, then it could lead to somebody becoming a doctor. And it can also lead to somebody doing their own research. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Suzanne. Do we have any questions? Oh, Mark.
It is on. It is on. Yeah. Well, thank you for the thank yous. whether to be changing one's life or ruining one's life. I don't know. When you were doing your PhD, were there kids in your year group that were doing similar things?
No.
Were they all looking at you like you were a little
Man.
mad? Because I never heard of archaeotheatre, and are you the only archaeotheaterist? Is that the right word? Are there others?
As far as I know, I am the only one. And in fact, when Johnny Saldana was talking about ethnodrama and ethnotheatre, he wrote a list of all the subjects that could be utilizing this concept. And the only subject was not archaeology that was in his list. And I thought, well, hang on, this is not right. This is a very important subject that should be in his list. And so I suppose I just took it upon myself. And I did create those terms. And my third supervisor and I, we were Googling these terms, like, no, there's no such thing as archaeodrama and archaeotheatre. And it's like, right, then that's my concept. Going back to your first question, I was the only one sort of doing this practice research. Practice research apparently originated in Finland. It's not so popular in universities in other countries, but the University of Portsmouth was very, very broad-minded and very receptive of that idea that I wanted to do practice research. And there's definitely a place for practice research because it gives you that real empathy and insight into your subject.
Any other questions? Yes, just wondered what you're thinking of going on to next.
Well, I'm knocking on all sorts of doors for all sorts of jobs, and my supervisors keep saying it's because you've got such a niche thing, Susie, that your doors are not opening for you. But I would love to tour this show. I'd love to take it to Orkney, to the Scapa Flow Museum. Love to bring it to Canada. Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia is the sister city to Portsmouth, so I would love to take it back home to Canada and perform it there. But also I devised it so that this concept can be utilized for other archaeological objects, finds, and sites. So it could be used for anything, for the London, for example, or I don't know, anything, Scarbrays, Stonehenge, you name it. It can be done because it can be ex situ. That is the beauty of it. You can take it outside.
Thank you. Now I've got a question which came from you. How can storytelling make us better researchers?
I think what storytelling does is it gives you that empathy. How can it not? Because you are putting yourself into somebody else's shoes and you're looking at it from their perspective. But I mean, I'm a performer storytelling, but storytelling can be done through, as we saw in the previous, the beautiful explanation by Carol with the beautiful artist work. I mean, that's telling a story. Playing a musical instrument is telling a story. I mean, you could even take it to like the way we live our lives is telling a story. But I mean, it does give us that empathetic understanding that I think is very unique to storytelling.
Right, Mark's going to see about online questions.
Anyone at home has a question?
Oh.
Anyone at home has used the Q&A? I forgot to do it after Carol, so sorry, Carol. There may be questions for you as well. No, you're okay.
Yeah, question about.
Sorry to ask this, but what's happened to the wreck itself?
It's just going to be there forever now. You can't excavate it because it is such a part of its environment that, I mean, I suppose if you want to save any bit of it would probably be the transom, but it's just rotting away and that's it. But again, like what I concluded at the end of my thesis is that sometimes in archaeology, as in life, you just got to learn to let things go. And so she's just returning to the elements. And I think, honestly, that's what she would want, to have all this beautiful life growing out of her, because she started out as trees of oak and pine and just cut down by human hands for the purposes of war. So she's just rotting.
I wonder if there's an interesting match there to the London of we're having to accept that it's rotting and that it's becoming part of.
Yeah, it's okay, let's into the world, but it's also nice about
Because I'd like to be recorded.
Of course.
With first.
Yeah.
That is my biggest argument.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with ML286, I went to a houseboat, very posh houseboat, and I saw her wheel and binnacle. So those two bits have been saved. The reason why they're in private ownership is that the owner of BJ Wood and Son Boatyard sold bits of her off. So I did see the wheel and the binnacle. When we were doing the big clean of her, we came across her capstan, but we just decided to leave it in situ. But there, I mean, both things are important. It's finding that balance. Yes.
Delighted to see the entire treatment is actually available on the thesis on the website of the University of Portsmouth. Thought about taking it on tour, but possibly not having the funding or the capacity to do it. Have you thought about doing something that you could film or AI or animation that was available online?
Yeah, I would love to do something like that. I mean, in 2019 or 2018, I can't remember the date, we did do a Sketchfab. If you go on Sketchfab, you can see a 3D model of ML286, which was in cooperation with the University of Valencia. I mean, I would love to do a little documentary film or make a little something, but I'm not a tech person at all. I'm just a Shakespearean actress. So I don't know anything about high tech at all. But that's something that I would really love to do. Yeah.
Is there a film school at the university?
Oh, yeah, but then I'd have to get another student loan and be an even
No,
more
I don't
debt.
mean you doing it, as in other students doing
Oh.
recording you as their project.
Oh. I never thought about that, but that's something that
That'd be their supervisor.
Crikey. Oh. that's a very sorry, that's something I picked up from living in this country. I remember that expression. But yeah, that's something I can think about. Yeah.